Welcome to episode 99 of the Toadstool Boardroom for the week of July 24th, 2024. My name's Logan Plant, and I'm joined this week, as always, by Justin Cora. I say Justin.
What's up, Logan?
And Chris Shriver.
99!
99! I know! Next
99.
week's a big one. Episode 100 coming up on deck. We have some fun stuff planned. But as for this week, we have a really packed show. We have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the reveal of Emio, the Smiling Man, Famicom Detective Club, which happened like 12 hours after we recorded last week, so we just missed it. We're going to talk about Splatoon 3's Grand Festival and Amiibo Live. Some new Amiibo were revealed. We're going to ask, did Nintendo just drop its first real Switch 2 hint? We'll get to that later in the show, and a lot more. But we're going to start with our Nintendo World Championships NES Edition review. Last week, if you missed it, we had IGN's Kat Bailey on the show to rank the 13 games included because we didn't have the game yet, but now we've had it for a week. We've played it. Is it any good? Chris, what do you think?
I love it. It's exactly what I was hoping it would be for someone with my gaming lifestyle. As we kind of described the day, there was a day where Justin wasn't with us, but you were just going on about how terrible NES games are and how Nintendo's a bad company and how they should just close their doors. And the only voice of reason here on the board was saying how that's just simply not true, and how great the NES is, and how I can't wait to play this game because I think it's going to be super digestible for people who have like a very short amount of time to play games. Yeah. And I think that person's me. The problem with this game is that it is so addictive and it is so much fun. And if you're going for the S rank on anything at all, it's just very easy to get into that one more mentality with any of these. I found myself doing that so much with Super Mario 2 that I did that the first night that I played. I got through all those. I was very excited. And then you humbled me very quickly, and you were like, yeah, guess what, Shriver? I did the same thing.
Okay, I was wondering if you ever saw that tweet, because you did not respond to it. So, yeah, if you don't follow us on Twitter, if you've abandoned that sinking ship, which is reasonable enough. But Chris tweeted at me the night the game came out and said, Super Mario 2 is an awesome game, and I'm awesome at it, or something like that. And so then I just had to S-rank everything to say, I'm also awesome at it, but I still don't like it. And that is exactly what I did. It's fine.
But I love it. I think it's super fun. I think the online could be better, but for the single player, like hop in and just like score chasing, it's as good as I would expect it to be. I would like it to be, and part of it is like the way system notifications work in this. So like the comparison I keep making is the best version of this that I've seen is Astro Bot on the PS5. The speedrun challenges on there where like if we're all friends and Logan gets a better time, Justin and I are told about it, and it's like, hey, go do this thing, and you hit a button and it takes you right into the game. I think that type of integration would make this game, like, put this game to the next level of like, I can't believe you beat my time, and now you're like, chasing your friends that whole time. Like, I'm more inclined to do that and do it off of a notification than I am like dive into the game and be like, let me look at the leaderboard. How am I compared to my friends? Like, I'm not going to be doing that.
Which it doesn't even have. It doesn't even have that,
right? Which
we'll need to talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
But Justin, I want to hear what you think too. Your first impressions.
Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I think that, sort of like when we did our show with industry legend Kat Bailey last week, or whenever it was, a lot of these games hold up really well. Like, I'm sorry, Super Mario Brothers 3 is still immaculate. Like, that game is perfect. Super Mario Brothers 1, it is so fun to do, and I do like the way that the speedrun nature of it kind of forces you to just go with reckless abandon, which is hilarious. I was doing one, I think it was from I can't remember if it was a level from Super Mario Brothers or the Lost Levels, but one of the ones where there's all the fish just flying at you while you're running from left to right as fast as you can, not taking the time to like let them get past you or anything. You're trying to hit every little narrow gap in between. It's a lot of fun. I think it's really well put together. I personally have been focusing just on the single player challenges. Now, I was traveling for most of last week, so I haven't had a lot of opportunity to play it yet. So what I've done is I've played at least 5 games of every game, and a lot more of a few of them, and I sort of set my floor as I'm going to at least be an A rank. Like, that's as long as I do that, I don't need to A++, I don't need to S everything, but if I can A rank everything, I'll be happy. And so I've done that, and I think that for the most part, it's a really, really good package of a lot of games. How good those games are varies. Speedrunning Mario 3, awesome. Playing Ice Climbers in any capacity whatsoever is the worst thing you could possibly do in a video game. So it, results may vary a little bit based on what you're doing. And man, seriously, Ice Climbers is so bad. It's got the worst jump in the history of jumps. I never want to play that game again. But at the same time, like, if you haven't played through something like Metroid, and if you haven't seen basically what like Kraid looked like initially, it's kind of cool.
He's such a little boy. He's so tiny.
He's just a little guy. He's just this little guy. And I will say, in my head especially, it is Super Metroid Kraid, which is like many screens tall. Nah, it's just a little guy. And so it's really fun to see those things. It's a cool showpiece. I like the side-by-side screens that you get, because that's kind of how they do your ghost. I like that that's an option. I wish I could go full screen, because there are times where like I don't really want to compare that. Like I just want to.
You can turn that off in the settings.
Can you?
Can go shut
thank
that
goodness.
off.
So yeah, I want to start doing that more. I also wish that there was an alternate ghost mode where you can just share the screen with your ghost. I would love to be like sprinting and jumping and dodging.
to like run with them.
Yeah, which is something that's been in video games for a long time. Like that's not a new idea.
Yeah.
And so, but being able to like run with it and like literally like lock in side by side, like I would love to be racing my own Excite bike, trying not to mess up the jumps and get my angles right and see like, where I'm pumping the turbo this time versus now and how that makes a difference. I haven't messed around much with the online functionality. And by messed around much, I mean I haven't even clicked on that menu, so I've got no opinions on that. But at least as far as like the core game modes, I like it. And honestly, it also, I don't know if I've heard other people talk about this enough, but the times that are required to achieve the different ranks feels right. Like you have to be pretty quick to achieve an A rank, and if you hit an A plus, you probably were extremely efficient. And those times where you do hit an S, they really do feel like you had to hit a perfect run. So I think it's really well tuned that way, and I do appreciate that all the rewards pretty much kick in at the A tier. So those of us who are not total sickos can still get those and not have to just absolutely destroy ourselves on every single mission like the Chris Shrivers of the world.
I do have to complain about something in that, though. I think it's a little absurd that they don't tell you what time is required for each rank. That is
They need to
crazy.
make that clear.
Yeah. Because you could get an A++,
there should just be a table.
and you could be 5 seconds away from an S, or you could be 0.5 seconds away from an S, and there's just no way for you to know. I'm sure some guides writer out there is out there trying to figure out what the ranking is for every single one, but it's just... To I think really kick into that one more run kind of feeling, you need to know how close you are to getting to the next thing. Go ahead, Chris.
You do eventually start, like if you do enough of them, like you start to figure it out. Like there was one for Mario 2 where I could tell it was like, maybe it's like a 6-second run, and I had like 6 seconds and like 5 milliseconds, and I'm like, okay, well it has to be under 6 seconds because there's no way I'm getting any faster at this.
Yeah. Well, you guys are both enjoying it. You've both been higher on it leading up to the announcement, and I'm gonna eat some crow right now. I'm enjoying this game a lot. I really like it way more than I thought I would. I've been super low on it since it was announced. I was lamenting that it's not NES Remix 3 and that it's just cut up little snippets of NES games that I've played 100 times each. But the way that it transforms how you play these NES games, it's not NES Remix, but it is remixing how you play these games. Like Justin was saying, just go full, just reckless abandon.
Balls to the wall, baby, let's go.
And just, some of the little instructions say, don't even worry about taking damage. It doesn't matter if you take damage. As long as you get through it faster, just go. And that is a really cool spin on some of these games. And I think it's also made me realize I even have a little, I really have a little more affinity for NES games than I thought I did. Specifically the Marios, Mario 1 and Mario 3, because the last challenge, the legendary challenge for Super Mario Brothers, is to beat the whole game and use the warp zones. And
is it really?
Yeah, it is. That's the last challenge.
Oh wow!
Beat Super Mario Brothers, and they have these. You probably haven't seen these yet, Chris. They have these adorable Nintendo Power style instruction pages for the legendary challenges. that
Oh,
tell you what to do.
They show you the exact route to take.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
just,
I saw that with Mario 2.
Mhm.
it's brilliant. Oh yeah, because you did finish everything for that one. But they have one of those
Yeah.
for every legendary challenge, and they're just gorgeous Nintendo Power NES manual style things that are super cool. I didn't even need to look at it for Mario 1 because I know Mario 1 so well, and you get to level 8-4, which is Bowser's Castle, and it's this labyrinth that if you go the wrong way, it just kind of resets you back at the start or at a previous area. And I got through it. I just know how it goes. I haven't beat Mario 1 in probably a decade, and I still had it burned into my brain how to run through this castle. And that was a really cool thing, and it was fun that that's the last challenge of that game and how it kind of builds to that. Get the mushroom, beat World 1-1, beat Bowser, and then it's beat the game. I love that kind of ramp up, and every game has that to some extent. So I think that's really, really cool. And I think that the multiplayer is really fun. And I'm talking about the local multiplayer. I think online is kind of a dumpster fire, which we'll talk about. But the local multiplayer is really fun. I've played it with 3 people at once, and just racing to get to the end with people who have not played these NES games like I have, and seeing them just figure them out. Like, one of my friends I was playing with is a big Nintendo fan. He's a big video game fan, but he's never played NES games. And just seeing him see Metroid and Kirby for the first time and instantly get a grasp because it's a 2-button game. It's not that hard to figure out. It was just super fun to race to the end. I thought I was going to sweep them all because I've played these games, but I didn't. They beat me in a couple of the challenges, and it was really fun to kind of compete in those local challenges. So a lot of aspects of this game I think they nailed. I think there's a lot of really weird parts of it too. Did you guys know that if you hit L and R, it resets the challenge to the start of the challenge without having to
And they
back out of
don't
the menu?
show that on the menu anywhere for some reason?
Why don't they show that?
Why?
You just
I
have
had
to
no
figure
idea.
that
Instead,
That was one of my
not
gripes.
only that, they only show like the one that kicks you back to the menu.
That's what I'd been doing the whole time.
out. Yep. Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, it's absolutely
The
bizarre.
only reason I figured that out is because Chris Shriver extra, but right. I was trying a bunch of different controllers. So like I tried the NES controller, like from Switch Online, some of the 8BitDo ones, and like I was using the 8BitDo. They have that little one that's like it's blue. I don't know. But I was doing L&R to like go get kicked back to the menu, and I was like, oh my god, this is so much better. And then I realized it's because they flipped those buttons on that controller. But like, yeah, just so many weird decisions like that they just omit from menus and just information that they don't tell you for whatever reason.
Did you know that you don't have to hit B to run and A to jump? You can hit X to run and A to jump, so you can have your fingers laid over the proper buttons instead of having the kind of weird downwards angle. They don't tell you that either. I just assumed it was B until I just tried X, and it also worked. Why don't they tell you that? I already mentioned this one. Why don't they tell you the times needed to achieve S rank? There's just so many, like there's 5 or 6 little omissions that if they included, I think that I would be even higher on this game than I already am. Because I think there's just some really strange choices like that are really weird. And multiplayer online specifically is one of those. So the 2 choices you have for online multiplayer are the World Championships, which is every week there are 5 new challenges that they select from all the single player ones. It's never anything new. It's always ones that you can access in single player, and you compete to get the best worldwide time. And then on Monday mornings, those leaderboards update and you see where you ranked. You can't know until it's over how you placed. There's no active running leaderboard to tell you right now you're 1500th in the world. So you don't really know if there's a higher ceiling to be shooting for than what you've got. It's kind of this weird throw a dart at a moving target and hope that you hit it by the time Monday morning rolls around. That's really weird. There's no friend leaderboard. So if I just want to see how I stack up against you guys, we have to just share our times over Discord or over social media or something like that. That's really weird. Then the other online mode is this kind of competition battle royale thing where it starts with 8 players, then it's down to 4, and then it's down to 2. But it's against players' ghosts. You're not actually playing against people. You're playing against people's best times that they present to you as if you're playing against them because you see their screens next to yours, but you're not. It's a single-player mode where it downloads the ghost data and you compete against them. Besides local multiplayer, there's no way that we can't play this together. The 3 of us couldn't sit down and decide to play this together online. It's bizarre. It's just really weird decisions that I think hold this game back a little bit.
That's too bad.
Meanwhile, you can play any NES online game over Switch Online together.
Yeah, you can do that, but not this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that that's like those are some really weird choices. They should update those things. Tell us what the controls are. Tell us you can hit L and R to reset your run. It's just super bizarre. But other than those little nitpicks, I think it's a really good product. I think $30 for the digital is the right price point for this, maybe even a little bit much for what it is. Like that 20 to 30 mark I think is perfect for this. But no, I'm enjoying it. I already have A-ranked everything. You unlock these really cool looking pins that are just have awesome 8-bit designs from those games on them. That's what the physical pins in the collector's edition are based on, are these pins that you unlock in the game. So it's cool. I think that I'm not going to stick with it much longer. Justin, how long do you see yourself playing this?
I'm probably going to play at least through all the base challenges. I may not do all the legendaries because those can be pretty time consuming, and I don't know that I'm that invested in them, but I'm enjoying it. I'm going to stick with it, and I do like that I can just, like Chris was saying, just chip away at a couple every now and then. I think that that's a lot of fun. And honestly, like, some of these games do rule, man. Like, holy smokes, like Donkey Kong is rad.
Yeah, Donkey Kong is rad. It's great. There's some of the challenges on that one are so hard because I think there's enemies that are randomly placed, like the flames that appear on the third stage.
Yeah, I will say one of the things that you have to learn to do if you're going to become really good at Donkey Kong is learn how to manipulate the flames and make them go where you want them to go to open a path for yourself. So like there's some method to that madness.
There's with barrels too. Like if you turn around at a certain time. They'll switch.
If you're like halfway up a ladder versus halfway down a ladder, like it'll impact which way they're going to go. You do start to learn those things, and that's a lot of fun. And like I remember you mentioned this on last week's show. I will say the first time I fell in a little hole, like just like 6 feet down as Mario, and he died. I was like, "What the heck, man?"
Yeah. Exactly.
His knees are made of glass.
Yeah, they actually tell you in the instructions, the secret information one for Donkey Kong, that if he falls further than his height, that is when he dies. So there's the answer for that.
There we go.
I learned. I actually thought about last week's episode when I read that. Yeah. I also learned that he can kind of grab onto the ladder before he's fully in front of it. So you can shave off precious milliseconds that way, which is a cool tip too. So yeah, I think it's honestly a pretty cool way to introduce people to these NES games because it, like you guys were saying, it teaches you how to play these. And then for Metroid specifically, a game I am never going to see through to completion. I've played Zero Mission. I will never sit down and play the NES Metroid. I got to see parts of these I would have never otherwise seen. Yeah. And I think that is a pretty cool thing for it to exist. I really hope there's a Super Nintendo edition. It's what we said with NES Remix so also, but I really like how they've set it up here. I think the bite-sized challenges are really fun, and doing it in Super Mario World or Super Metroid or A Link to the Past just sounds really, really awesome.
I would love to take on some challenges in Star Fox or Pilot Wings.
Yes,
I think would be really cool. I would love them to open this up to third parties down the line. Do something like that. I mean, I hope this isn't a one and done. I would love to see them do something with this, either a sequel or update or something with it, because it is a really fun concept.
Yeah, it'd be cool if they were just like, hey, here's 2 new NES games that we're including challenges for as a free update to Nintendo World Championships. I don't see them doing that. This feels like this game is shipped, it's done, they'll just do the weekly leaderboard stuff, but it would be cool to see because they've been so good at that for so many games this generation.
And I do think the challenge. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
No, that's all right. Keep going.
I do think the nature of the challenges that they pick is really interesting too, because it's not just like get from point A to point B. Sometimes it's Kid-Icarus. It's, kill every enemy in this room, or it's, all right, here's a Lionel on the other side of this body of water. Go defeat him as quickly as you can, or burn the bush and go get 100 rupees from this guy as quickly as possible. And so they're oftentimes like weird or off the wall. How quickly can you die to a poisonous mushroom? And I love that conceit of it, and I would love to see them do stuff like that. Like, what kind of weird stuff could you do in F-Zero if you wanted to, right? Like,
oh my gosh,
how quickly can you explode your racer in F-Zero, or something like that. There's a lot of cool ideas, and I think that's an underrated aspect of it, the way that the things that you speedrun are a lot more clever than just clear this section.
Yeah, or there's an interesting one in Super Mario Brothers that is how fast can you get 30 coins? And there's several ways you can go about doing that, and it's pretty cool. But Chris, you were going to say something.
The only thing that has me thinking that they will never do another one of these is there wasn't like I feel like a big part of it was around the fact that like this was an event that took place and like it was in the NES era.
Mhm.
Like there's not really there's nothing stopping them from doing it really. Like they like, technically like it is completely possible for them to do this. But I don't know, there's some part of me that is just like no, like it is this purest thing, and we are trying to replicate a thing that occurred back, you know, in the 80s. Like just let it be that and move on. Because they're weird like that with these kinds of things where they're like, no, the legacy needs to like what happened before must happen again in the exact same way, and we're not diverging from the path. Let's move on.
Mhm.
Like I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see another thing again, which you know, I hope I'm wrong, but
Yeah, if only they could see what could be unburdened by the context of what has been, or whatever.
right.
The line is that we've been
Good try.
saying
That's close.
on Twitter these days. Yeah, close enough. Yeah, Chris, to your point, I think that it's called NES Edition, and I think some people took that to mean there's going to be an SNES Edition, but I take it to mean
Right.
no, this is Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. Like it's this event that we've turned into a bunch of NES games for you to play. So yeah, I don't think it means that they're
Yeah.
ever gonna return to it. Just like we never got Super Nintendo Remix. It was right there, and they just didn't do it.
A crime.
Yeah. I still don't get the Excite Bike love. I'll be honest. I still am not with it. It's just too slow. I don't like how the bike feels. I don't like bouncing off the hills, and he comes to like a complete stop, even when you're good and doing it right. I don't know. I'm still not into it. Mario 2, I'm also still not super into, but I think I like it more than I did. Just sometimes I feel like it's not as precise as Mario is. I feel like sometimes you think
It's
you're
not.
going to
So
on top of a thing and you don't.
And
I'm not
specifically,
into
like
it.
you are mapped to the platforming of a different game, so your
Yep.
momentum and your distances aren't the same as that they are in
It's completely
Mario
different.
games,
Yeah.
and so that throws you off. But
Mhm.
yeah. The thing that I would challenge anybody who wants to figure out if they like this game, do the Birdo fight in this. That is so much fun, and like timing it up and jumping on the eggs and throwing them back, it's great, and it's such a weird character that you fight, and then you go into this weird bird mouth thingy for reasons that you never need to know. Perfect encapsulation of that game.
I also want to shout out Kirby's Adventure. That game does have more slowdown than I even remembered in this NES in this World Championships, but I still loved it. It has the most challenges of any game, so you'll be playing a lot of Kirby's Adventure if you play this game, and it's so good. I can't believe how good that game looks on NES. It's still super charming and has awesome levels, and it's just feels really big, like Mario 3. Like you can just tell Mario 3 and Kirby's Adventure came out way later than most of these other ones did. It still feels like that. Also, Zelda 2, how has any human in the world finished that game? That game is so insane. I don't know how people have done it. That's such a crazy, difficult game, but it's very cool. So that's Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. There's a lot of people in our Discord that are playing it and passing around time since the leaderboard functionality is so terrible. So if you're playing it, hop on in and share your times. Maybe we should start a dedicated channel just for times for people to post.
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So if you see that pop up, we're probably recording right now. If you were on Discord when you saw that channel pop up, yeah. So let's move on. Though that's Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. Oh wait, real quick, I forgot. Chris, did you get the physical edition of this? Oh, it's right behind
there.
him.
There
He's
it
just-
is. Look
he's
at-
just
look
playing
at
it.
that
I totally
gorgeous
did not
cartridge.
see it. Nice. What do you think of it?
I think it's very cool. I think they did a really good job with it. I mean, obviously, I don't care about pins. I have enough pins at this point in my collection in various things that I think whenever I do my office, I'm gonna have to like get some kind of board. But I think that cartridge is sick. I really like that they gave you that like acrylic stand for the cartridge. Yeah, it's just like a really cool random conversation piece that like if somebody from that era saw that would be like how like at first glance I think would be like how do you own that because like
Yeah. Mhm.
there's like 10 of those that exist and they go for like $1 million or something. So no, I think really cool package for sure. Not as cool as the I keep saying it's not as cool as the Japanese one because they got the Famicom controllers, but I also have the NES controllers, so I'm like I really can't complain.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
Cool. I also got the physical, but I didn't open any of the goodies. I just took out the game because I don't know if I'm going to keep them. I just wanted the physical game. So, yeah. I wanted to see what you thought of it. It's a cool set, though. It is a cool thing that they did for this. And
it is.
Not too poorly priced, either. It being like full price game to get all the extra stuff, it's fine. So that's Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. Let's move on to the mystery of Emio revealed. It is Emio the Smiling Man. Famicom Detective Club. It's a new game in the Famicom Detective Club series, the first new one in 35 years. You'll probably remember they remade the first 2 entries on Nintendo Switch a few years back, and it's launching August 29th. It's from series producer Yoshio Sakamoto, who has done just a million things at Nintendo over the years. He's the Metroid guy, is what he really is right now. He's the director of Super Metroid, the producer of Metroid Dread. So yeah, he's worked on WarioWare, Rhythm Heaven, Tomodachi Life, a ton of stuff, and he was the original writer of the first 2 Famicom Detective Club games. So now he's back making this 3rd game. They released a really cool developer video. We've been criticizing Nintendo for not telling us who's making their stuff. The day they actually announced this game, they showed us a video of him talking about it and saying, when we remade the original 2, I knew we needed to make a 3rd one. We needed to make a new one, and we needed to use everything we've learned and go all in on the story and the cinematics. And yeah, he sounded really, really, really excited about it. The internet, not as excited, much more split on the reveal of it being a visual novel mystery horror game. Justin, how are you feeling about this announcement?
I think that there's 2 ways to look at it. I think if you look at it as the rollout of a new Famicom Detective Club game, it was handled really well. They garnered a lot of buzz, a lot of attention, a lot of different podcasts and things like that were talking about it, news articles, all that chatter. And so I don't think from like a PR and marketing standpoint, they could have done a better job, honestly, of getting people to pay attention to this. Conversely, as somebody who's not particularly interested in the series, it is a bit of a bummer. It was so cool and mysterious, and it's something that could have drug out longer and done more stuff with on kind of like the metagame around it. And yeah, I certainly had hope that they were going to do something darker, more mature for what we expect out of Nintendo. And that's not the route that they're going, and that's fine. But I think I'm certainly one of those folks who is, you know, met this announcement with a shrug.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, there's a ton of people, I think, that felt that way. Chris, were you one of them?
I was, because of you two.
It's our fault.
So I wasn't here the week we talked about Emio.
Yeah.
And you guys went on about, oh man, what if it's this Hideo Kojima game? You know, complete the trifecta. It could be the Xbox and PlayStation.
Logan,
you know, and I was like, oh my god, the gears were spinning. Maybe it'll be like a Dead Space thing, you know, or Evil Within. And I was like, man, I can't wait. This is gonna be so exciting. And then they come out as Famicom Detective Club, and I'm like, that game didn't even get a physical release in the US. And I don't have time to read that much. So, no, I'm not that excited.
Yeah, I figured as much from the 2 of you. I'm super excited about it, obviously. The Ace Attorney guy, the visual novel guy, I think this is going to be awesome. I have not played both of the 2 remakes. I played the first one. I liked it. I really liked the idea, the concept, the characters, but I thought it felt like a remade NES game. It still very much had those bones of just kind of the limitations. Very, very short, not too complicated of a mystery, not much text going on, very linear. So them saying, hey, we're going to do that, but make it a modern version of it, I'm super psyched for it. I think that's really, really exciting. It is the first M-rated game that Nintendo has ever internally developed. Ever. That's crazy. The first one. So it is a visual novel. That's obviously going to turn a lot of people off. So I also wanted to ask, now that it's been revealed, do you feel like Nintendo strung us along? Do you feel like that was a fair tease for what this ended up being? Because that is like a live action version of the character. And then in the reveal trailer for the game proper, Emio turns his back and then instantly turns to that hand-drawn anime art style. And I think you probably lost a couple million people the second that happened alone. So Chris, what do you think?
I think I'm gonna dip into the question that we got from Red, to kind of answer that, because I think they are related. So Red asked, if Emio was revealed in the Direct, do you think the hype would be higher than just a random Twitter drop? Also, why do you guys think this wasn't at the Direct? So I think it wasn't there because Nintendo probably wants this to be a bigger deal than it currently is. Like, I think, you know, they released Famicom Detective Club. I don't know what sales numbers for that were in the US, but I can't imagine they were huge. And there is a market for those kind of games here. Like, a lot of people do play visual novel type games in the States. But I think if this were released with the trailer that we got like the second trailer that we got, I'll call it that,
Yeah.
with the developer, drop and all that. I think that would have gotten lost in the direct, given everything else that was in the direct, like Zelda, Mario and Luigi. Like there were some big announcements that came out of the direct, and this totally would have just been like a nothing burger for most people. The fact that they did it afterwards on Twitter, and it was like its own like moment to kind of happen that week in Nintendo news. Like there really wasn't any other Nintendo news that happened that week. It was probably the smartest move that they could have made, just in terms of like everyone being like, what is this thing? And like really making it mysterious.
Yeah.
I don't even know that I call it a bait and switch. Because like we had nothing to go off of. We like you guys literally sat here speculating like what could it possibly be for a while.
And we didn't guess this.
So
this did not come up.
No, this didn't come up at all, and I don't think it was on anybody's bingo card. Like, but it's Nintendo gonna Nintendo. Like, nobody can ever predict what they're doing.
Yeah, to what you're saying.
If I disappear, real quick, my son is climbing his crib.
Okay.
I might go run away.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, you need to go get an S rank on getting up there.
Yeah,
we have our Chris stand-in ready.
Oh, okay, yeah. If you're watching the video, you're gonna see new Chris pop up here on the screen. I'm excited for this. There he is. That's brilliant.
It's like he's still here.
Justin. Yeah, exactly. For what he was saying about the Direct, I think that Nintendo Directs are a really good way to show people a bunch of games, but at the end of them, I think people will walk away only remembering the 2 or 3 things that looked interesting to them. And I think that if you watch a direct with people, you watch people live react to a direct, or you watch it yourself, you'll probably find that people tune out in some of the middle segments. They'll see what the next thing is. They'll say, oh, it's a visual novel, and then they'll just tune out until the next announcement starts. And I think in how packed that direct was, I think Chris nailed it. I think that people would not be talking about it, and it would have sold probably just as much as the remake sold. The people that like it would buy it, and nobody new would come on board. But on Twitter, after Emio the Smiling Man was formally announced, I saw plenty of people saying, oh, okay, not for me. I was excited and now disappointed. But I also saw a lot of people saying, wow, nice marketing, Nintendo. I would have never paid attention to this game without that, and now I'm going to try it. So I think they probably got some people on board this way.
Yeah, I think that latter scenario is exactly what justifies it. I paid a lot more attention to it. If this was just tucked away in a direct, I also probably would have tuned it out. Now, I'm probably not going to play this game. I'm not particularly interested in that style of game, and it looks like it could be spooky, which, I mean, right there, I'm gone. So, no, like, I don't think they did anything wrong or untoward. I think that it was really good, clever marketing, and I think that it will pay off for them. So they did great. I think that not having this in a direct was so much better for this. I think the direct is really good to get a little bit of attention to a lot of things and to put a lot of eyes on your really, really big announcements. But if you're somewhere in between, I think you can get lost in the weeds a little bit, and this managed to avoid doing so, and I think that that's a good call on their part.
And like we're talking especially for Nintendo themselves. If you are a smaller dev and you have a small game, it has got to be a dream come true to get that included in a Nintendo Direct, because that is going to be more eyes on it than you could have ever gotten on it yourself. But Nintendo, they're competing with themselves because they make the biggest announcements in a Direct every single time. So if they're super excited about this passion project from Sakamoto, they don't want to kill it, because no one's going to be talking about Nintendo's 6th best announcement at a Nintendo Direct. They're going to be talking about the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd best. So awesome to give this the spotlight. And I just want to talk about it from the Sakamoto angle again for a second. I think it's so cool that he's been at Nintendo since 1982, for over 40 years.
42 years.
He's still directing and producing games like this, like so many people at Nintendo are that have been there since basically the start of their video game journey. And yeah, he worked on Metroid Dread. He worked on this big tentpole thing, and now he gets to go and tinker on this little side project. And I love that they're letting things like this see the light of day.
Yeah, it feels like a passion project. I can't imagine that he was in, the offices and Miyamoto slams on his table and demands the next entry in this series. No, this seems like, 42 years of clout, something that he really likes, looking for what his next project is and thinking, yeah, this could be really fun to revisit. And I do think that the climate now is a lot more open and accommodating to visual novels and adventure games in this style of game. So I think it's a really good time for it.
Yeah, we'll see how well it does. It's more expensive than your visual novel tends to be, but Nintendo's going to be Nintendo. It's $49.99, comes out August 29th, and it is getting a physical release in all regions, which is cool to see, especially considering that those remakes didn't of the first two. So I think that is nice. I'm wondering if they'll do that, if they'll put out physical versions of those two, if this thing catches any traction, because that's something I could see them doing. But that is what Emio, the big mystery, is. Let us know what you think, toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com. We're going to move on here to, actually, while Chris is gone, why don't we go out of order a little bit? And Justin, you were gone over the last week, off at a big grand convention for a game that is on Nintendo Switch. So, Justin, where were you and what happened?
Yeah, so I was shipped all the way off to London, Ontario, Canada, for an event called TennoCon. And what TennoCon is, if you're not familiar with it, is it's really centered around the kind of massively multiplayer online shooter Warframe and an upcoming kind of spiritually connected game, Soulframe. The very simplest shorthand is they're almost a Destiny-like, but not necessarily as loot drop grindy. And it was phenomenal. They showed us a lot of stuff that is coming up down the road. In particular, the big highlight was Warframe 1999. This is an upcoming story expansion, and I should couch this with, it is feature complete on Nintendo Switch, parity with every other system, and it's completely free to play. So there is...
That's great.
The barrier of entry is you gotta download it. And so it's really easy to get into.
If you're listening to the show, I'm guessing you're having a Nintendo Switch. If you don't, email us and tell us why. I'd be really interested to see who's following along.
You take emails and we'll send you one. I'm not doing that. And so, but yeah, and it has a really, really good onboarding. I only started in this game a few months ago, and unlike something like Destiny 2, which if you didn't jump in at the right time, you're trying to jump on a halfway disassembled moving train, here you can play through the entire thing, and it does a really good job kind of guiding you from point to point. But Warframe 1999, which drops in winter of this year, is a story that takes place in kind of an alternate version of the year 1999, and it's a game that has guns and swords and cool abilities and things like that, and it's so steeped in 1999 nostalgia. It's all about that Y2K transition. It takes place right...
That's really cool.
On New Year's Eve. It's got cool motorcycles, big crazy bosses. It has a decrepit 1990s mall with pizza, and they even have fictional music of that era that they put in it, grunge music, girl pop. There's an entire boy band that they've made to be in this game. So it leans really, really heavy into that turn of the millennium aesthetic that, at least for me, is really formative. The lead character, Arthur, is played by Ben Starr, who you might know from Final Fantasy 16, who is one of the loveliest and most hilarious people. I actually had a chance to interview him as part of the project, and I spent most of my time just laughing because he is a very, very funny individual. And you wouldn't know that because he's always playing these very gravelly voice, very serious roles, and we even talked about that a little bit. And so if you are looking for a new game to play, something with a really, really good community, check out Warframe. And I will say, I've been to a lot of gaming events. I've never really been to a convention that's for a specific property like that. I couldn't believe how many people were there, how good the energy was, how excited everybody. There was amazing cosplay. It was like PAX, a little bit smaller, but cool. It was that exact energy. And again, it is 100% free to play. And I have it on both my Xbox and on my Switch, and I've basically been doing my dream scenario that I always like to do is when I want it to look as crispy and clean with the nicest lighting as possible, throw it on the Xbox on the big TV. When I want to just chill on my couch and vibe and, I don't know, grind some materials or play through a couple little missions, grab the old Switch, the exact same account, the exact same file, and I'm up and running. It was a really, really cool experience, and I'm pretty excited for 1999 specifically.
And is that coming to Switch also at the same day as everything
Yep.
else?
Oh, yeah. So
that's great.
And it is one of the scenarios where the Switch just has complete parity with the other systems around. Obviously, things like frame rate and things like, how sharp the graphics can be and all that will be impacted by the quality of your hardware. But at the same time, if you build yourself a supercomputer desktop, that's also going to make your Xbox and your PlayStation 5 look a little silly by comparison. Yeah. So it's all relative. And in particular, when you're in handheld on that smaller screen. The fact that the resolution is like what 720 rather, or maybe 900p rather than like 4K, you don't even really need to worry about that. So it's a really it's really cool, and like you get an occasional slowdown, but for the most part, it's clean and fast and smooth, and it's a lot of fun if you're into that type of game.
Yeah, that's super cool, and yeah, that is cool. I've never been to a convention for like a single.
I know
game
it was
like
it was a new experience for me. We spent several days there, and it was fun. You know, anytime you go there with other writers, you like get a chance to shoot the breeze. Some of them have like I talked to some folks who have been in it since day one, and they have your character is in the war frames are basically your suits. They're like sort of like character classes in Destiny, except there's a million of them with a lot of cool looks, and people get really tied to them, and you chase new ones and things like that. So you talk to some folks who've been there since day one who have every frame. You have other folks like me who are a little bit newer who are still like in my training wheels frame trying to figure out what I'm doing. And hearing their stories. And one of the coolest things about it, just from a community standpoint, is they're extremely spoiler adverse because it does have a really deep story. But so many people are like, oh, wait, where are you? What just happened? Okay, wait till you get to this point. Oh my God, tell me when you get to this thing. And it's that excitement that I think makes any kind of community like a joy to get embedded in.
Yeah, that's super cool. So did you only get into it because you were going to go and cover this convention? So is that what
Oh boy, so
got you
the
into
reason I got into it is actually because of PAX East. I was at PAX
okay.
East earlier this year in Boston, and I ended up talking to a couple of folks from Digital Extremes, the folks who make this game. And you know, we sort of talked about like the games that we like and our various fandoms. And I mentioned that I'm a really big Destiny guy, and they're like, and of course they're extremely familiar with it because it is like, I mean, this is probably the closest like real competitor to it. And so we talked a lot about things that we like, the things that we dislike, and just based on that conversation, I was like, you know what? That sounds really fun. I kind of want to check it out, and the price is right. So like that's what led me to get into it. And then since I, you know, was a little bit into it, and since I'm, you know, willing to travel for work, when I had the opportunity to actually go to TennoCon, I was all over it.
Why is it called TennoCon?
So you the player are called a Tenno. So like you the character, and so that's where that name comes from. Sort of like the Destiny fan convention used to be called Guardian Con. It's kind of the same idea.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Well, thanks for sharing. That sounds really awesome. It is totally convention season. It's happening. San Diego Comic-Con is this weekend. We got PAX coming up, and yeah, we're going to be hanging out again, which I'm super psyched for.
Yeah,
no Nintendo Live this year. That's a bummer. I wish that they were back in Seattle for us this year. But
I'm curious to see what kind of presence they have, though, because you know, with NOA, Nintendo of America, headquartered right near Seattle, it's pretty typical to see them, you know, have at least some kind of presence. Ship those dioramas over or something.
I hope that they bring over some Zelda Echoes of Wisdom
for
us to play at PAX.
Fingers crossed.
That'll be about a month before it came out. I'm sure that's when impressions will be dropping for it. So hopefully you and I can go play Zelda together, and you can see
pretty similar time frame to when we played Wonder last year.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, identical. So I hope so. That'd be super fun. All right, we're still waiting for Wario Shriver to get back, but let's move on and talk about our next Nintendo topic, which is Splatoon 3's Grand Festival and new amiibo revealed. Justin, this was a fun one to check off from last week for me because I predicted this, and then it happened a couple of days later, so I was happy about this one. But Splatoon's Grand Festival was revealed, and this is a crossover Splatfest where each idol group, so we're talking Splatoon 1, 2, and 3, represent a different team. The theme is, which is the most important to you, past, present, or future? And the description says, shall we look back on the good old days, stay in the moment, or think of all the possibilities? This Splatfest runs from Thursday, September 12th to Sunday, September 15th. So it is 24 hours longer than the Splatfests usually are. They usually start on Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock and end Sunday at 5. But this time we're kicking off Thursday at 5. So just another reason this one is bigger than they usually are. To go along with it, Nintendo announced new Squid Sisters and Off the Hook amiibo are coming on September 5th, so about a week before the Splatfest. So the idols for Splatoon 1 and 2 are getting new amiibo based on their designs in Splatoon 3. And you can even go buy shirts and a festival wristband over at My Nintendo. So Justin, they're really going all out for this thing.
Yeah, I'm amazed because they're making a big deal out of it, and they are clearly committing a lot of resources to it. It is very much kind of sort of like what I was talking with TennoCon. It's clearly meant to be like a big community celebration, right? Talking about
Mhm.
what came before, what they're doing now, what they're doing next. It's so much bigger than a normal Splatfest. And honestly, just the fact that we're getting new amiibo, are
I
you kidding
know.
me?
Yeah. Mhm.
I'm stunned. I thought we were done with amiibo, honestly.
Yeah.
And so that's amazing, and other merchant things like that. This is so cool, and it reinforces something that we say on the show all the time, which is that this is a pillar franchise for Nintendo. They don't go all in on festivities like this with just anything that they put out. This is them continuing to plant their flag and say, this is one of our key franchises.
And I love that they just really are doing something different with it. It is
Mhm.
this real world fourth wall breaking stuff that is the social media account that acts as if they're tweeting to split like Inklings and Octolings,
Mhm.
which are us. Like just all the
Yep.
stuff they do, going and buying a wristband on My Nintendo to it's like if you were at the event yourself, or a
The
shirt to support
shirts.
your team. Like
How
they
cool
just
are the shirts?
it's so cool. I love it. I love what they're doing, and
Yeah.
I just love that Splatoon continues to be their most live servicey thing, and that they're killing it. And it's a big Splatfest because, as we've talked about so many times, the big anniversary celebration. I don't know if this is the final Splatfest, but this is certainly the final Splatfest that's going to dictate what happens in Splatoon 4, like we saw in Splatoon 1 and 2, leading into 3. So, past, present, or future, or whichever idol team you're supporting, is somehow
Mhm.
going to influence the world design, the story, something of Splatoon 4. And I think that's super cool. So, with that said, Justin, past, present, or future, which team would you pick?
Ooh, boy, that's tough. So, just like conceptually, I am, more of an eyes to the future kind of person. But if it
Mhm.
is going to dictate potentially like what they explore with the next game, I would have to go all in on the past. I am so intrigued. And like, I'm a big lore nerd in any game that
Yeah.
I play.
Hmm.
And Splatoon really has some of the most interesting mysteries about like the state of the world and why it is the way it is and the destroyed landmarks that we see. Again, it's a post-apocalyptic Squid Kid future.
Hmm.
And so if it's a question of will potentially lean into that past, that would be my pick, absolutely. And I will say, as somebody who doesn't generally participate in the Splatfests, if I'm free, I'm going to try and jump into this one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you totally should. We should play. I'm going to be on all
We should do it.
weekend, and we're
Yeah.
going to be on the same team. I am going to be team past. I think that future, if I may be metagaming it too much and not picking based on what I actually think, because I'm with you, Justin, look to the future kind of person. So that's what I would pick if I was just going off of my gut. But
Mm.
past is represented by the idols from Splatoon 1. I feel like I got to give them some reps since not very many people played Splatoon 1 on Wii U. And then also, yeah, a Splatoon game that explores kind of the beginning of this culture could be really, really cool.
Mhm.
Almost like this is a weird example because I don't know if people really liked this game, but Far Cry Primal. It's a Far Cry game, but it takes place way, way in the past where you're using like stone to bludgeon woolly mammoths, something like that. Like it is
Takes
not
place in my childhood.
yeah, okay, yeah. It's not your typical Far Cry game. Splatoon doing something like that would be really cool. Like, let's
so cool.
have a PvP Splatoon game with a totally new set of weapons, kind of inspired by the very early days of whatever happened, the fall of humanity and the rise of these Inkling characters. That would be really, really cool. Present, I don't know. We've done that. We're doing that right now. And then future, I feel like the Side Order DLC really leaned into kind of that future-leaning aesthetic, that
Mhm.
like utopian black and white aesthetic,
The ultra
kind of this
clean,
big
yeah.
futuristic city. Yeah, so
Super
I don't think
modern.
that I need to see a full game based on that one. I feel like the DLC kind of did that. So
Mm.
very, very cool. I'm excited about it. And on the amiibo front, I'm with you. I thought they were dead. I thought that Sora was the end and it was over. So I don't love these amiibo. I don't know if I'm personally going to get them, but just seeing a sign of life for amiibo at this point gives me hope that we'll see a Zelda for Echoes of Wisdom later down the line, and maybe
Okay, that
stuff
would
from
be
Mario
awesome.
and Luigi or something
Yeah.
like that. Because it's so weird because they didn't give it to us for Wonder or for Princess Peach or Paper Mario or any of this stuff, but Splatoon now has like almost 30 amiibo. I think they really crank them out for this series, which
Mhm.
again just shows how much they care about it.
Well said.
I wish Chris was here to pick his team. Should we wait for him? Should we take a pause or should we keep going? What do you think?
I think we should just have dead air for as long as it takes for Chris to get back. I mean, people love that. Let's keep charging ahead.
Okay, yeah, we'll keep going. We can get his quick thoughts on everything he misses when he gets back. So up next, I want to ask you, Justin, did Nintendo just drop its first real Switch 2 hint? And I am somebody who I feel like every week on this show I'm saying, no, this isn't about Switch 2. This isn't about Switch 2. This is one of the first times I'm on the fence. So Nintendo revealed a new hardware accessory, the two-way Joy-Con charging stand. And this is launching October 17th, and it's a way to charge your Joy-Con without the charging grip or the console itself. This is just a bizarre thing to launch 7.5 years after you launch the console, Justin. And one of the prevailing theories on the internet, which I'm still unsure if I personally agree with, is that this is because Switch 2 is going to use Joy-Con, like support them as the Wii U supported Wii controllers, but there's going to be some new attachment system, so the Joy-Con 1.0 won't be able to use the rails to connect to the Switch 2, so you need to provide some alternative solution to charging them if you trade in your Switch but keep your Joy-Con. And that's why they're putting this out now. Are people crazy for saying that this is connected to Switch 2?
No, I honestly, I think you're crazy if you think anything other than that at this point.
Yeah.
I think that given where we are in its life cycle, the fact that these things do take R&D money to produce, they take money to get manufactured and put out on store shelves. That's an investment, and Nintendo doesn't make dumb investments generally. Everything that you said, I would bet the house on being exactly what this is.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
If the Joy-Con are going to be compatible in some way, shape, or form on the next console, and they did not want the way they click into place, the rails, the charging mechanism, to be a dependency that they are stuck with, you need a solution for how to charge these things, because you can't just expect everybody to just go stick them on another Switch that's on another charger somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That is the use case for this. There may be a niche use case of somebody who just likes having a whole bunch of Joy-Con around connected to a bunch of things and charging all the time. But that's not a primary use case for this, I don't think. To me, this is as good as a confession that they are making this for people who are going to have whatever the Switch 2 is. The Joy-Con are going to be part of it, and they will not charge natively on the console. This, I am like 99% sure that is exactly what this is telling us.
I think so too. I really think so. And they do in these promotional images show charging the NES controllers that are slide onto the Joy-Con rails also. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like a play for this Nintendo World Championships game. Oh, if you're playing in handheld mode, let's say, but you want to charge your NES controllers so you can dock it later and play that, here's a way to do that. But if that was the case, Chris is back. Hey, Chris.
Hey.
Wow.
Everything all good?
Wow. He's down for now. We'll see what happens.
We are talking about the Joy-Con charging stand, and if that's a hint at Switch 2, and Justin and I both think absolutely it is. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I think that like all but confirms backwards compatibility. I think there's also a very good possibility that they something that like I haven't really heard talked about. That they will release some kind of like super budget non-mobile Switch that isn't actually like a handheld, but it's just like a set top box that's like $100. I could totally see them doing that. Yeah, like and I think a lot of people would, just so they had like a Switch in another room, like almost like an Apple TV Plus or something like that. You know, and like, you know, we keep asking that question. I think it's pretty clear they want to break like the most consoles sold ever. I think that's a great, easy way, to do it at this point. I think they know that people aren't going to go out and buy another Switch Lite. I don't, you know, even if you look at the Zelda one that was just up for pre-order, like, I think they're all sold out at this point, but I feel like they didn't sell out immediately the way that they normally would. So I feel like that's a pretty good indication that like if you like they're gonna have to get creative if they really want to crack that number, because anybody that already owns one Switch or two or more, they're gonna need an incentive to get something to get that number back up at this point.
The only other thing I was thinking about was, are these just repurposed Joy-Con charging grips they had lying around, and no one has been buying those, and so they repurposed them into a new SKU. But looking at it, I don't think that's the case. I don't think
It's
that's
too
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
Like the hardware, like even the printing of it's too different. I get what you're saying though. Maybe the internals, it's probably all the same internals there, but like they could be repurposing that. But that's a long time to have held on to all of that.
I don't
And
think
not
that's what's
done
happening
anything with
here.
it.
They
Yeah.
absolutely have done that before. Like the Animal Crossing Special Edition
100%.
Switch lights they pumped out last year with the leaf taped on the back. Those were just Switch lights that they repurposed to be those, guaranteed 100%. So that's why I bring that up here. But I'm looking at it. I don't think that's what it is, and I don't think it's something they just had the idea for either. I think it's something that they're preparing for the next generation for. Worries me a little bit. Please don't be a Wii to Wii U situation where it's like you can use all your Joy-Con and all your games and everything works. I hope they don't.
I think that's exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah, just call it something smarter and market it a little bit smarter, and hopefully we don't have a repeat of what happened 10 years ago. I don't.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a different landscape now. Not that it's not confusing, but look at the Xbox, and even the PS5 to that extent. Like you can use a DualShock 4 on a PS5. You can use your Series X or original Xbox One controllers on a Series S and Series X. Like all that stuff did move forward. It's just the Wii was like kind of the first one to do it. I mean, really, the GameCube to the Wii was the first one to do it.
Well, I mean, Nintendo's the only one who changes their controller form factor generation to generation. Really, everybody else
That's also
is
true.
compatible the same.
Well, like in any large,
On a basic level,
yeah, exactly.
Also, I think the numbers do show us that more people are paying attention to Nintendo right now than they were at this point in the Wii generation. People weren't buying software at the end of the Wii life cycle. They'd put it in the drawer. They were done with it. The way Switch games are selling and the way Nintendo is still dominating the news whenever it chooses to, literally whenever. They're doing fine. I think this transition's going to be better. I'm just curious to see how they're going to tell us this stuff. How are they going to tell us, oh, your Joy-Con works, but you can't slide it on, so you need this or some alternative solution. It's going to be a challenge, and I'm curious to see how they're going to do it. But that's the Joy-Con charging stand out October 17th. Chris, the one main topic you missed I wanted to ask about was we talked about Splatoon 3's Grand Festival, and we picked our teams past, present, or future, and I had to get your pick for that.
Is that just generally past, present, future, or is that like, are we doing this in terms of like the Squid band ladies?
You can pick based on the bands too. You can pick whatever you want.
Because I think with that I said the OGs.
Yeah, which is past.
I feel like my therapist and I would say present because I need to live in that more and stop worrying about the past or the future.
You know what? That's a really good point. You shouldn't live in the past. By the way, sweet CRT and arcade cabinet behind you.
Sick. Thanks, man.
That's a good choice. Justin and I both went with past because we think that if Splatoon 4, if past wins and Splatoon 4 is based on past winning this Splatfest, then it could be really, really cool if they do some like prehistoric squid stuff. Could be awesome.
That would be cool.
That's going to be fun. All right, and then our last topic for the show here, we're starting to go a little long, so we'll try and get through this quick, is Zelda Echoes of Wisdom age rating says you can play as Link. So here is the full rating from the ESRB that came out about a week ago. This is an adventure game in which players assume the role of Zelda as she attempts to dispel rifts throughout Hyrule and rescue Link. From a three-quarter overhead perspective, players explore various environments while fighting stylized enemies like humans and creatures. As Link, players use a sword and arrows to defeat enemies. Zelda can use a magic wand to summon creatures for battle. So, and then it goes on, it says a little bit more. But the ESRB rating says, as Link, players use a sword and arrows to defeat enemies. What do we think of this? Do we think that we're playing as Link for more, like a substantial part of this adventure? Or is this the intro segment they showed in the trailer? You charge in and you fight Ganon, and then Link disappears. Chris, what do you think of this?
I'm torn, which is like the safe answer, right? Yeah, I feel like it could be that, and then like maybe the end of the game. I also think there's a good chance that there's like he gets sucked into this realm, almost like a low rule situation, and there's almost like a back and forth where like you're doing some stuff as Zelda, and then you unlock a thing, and then that affects slow rule, and then you like play as Link, and then you have to like go to a dungeon as Link or something like that. I could see them doing something like that, so you're not completely abandoning like the 2D Zelda formula, but you're also introducing new mechanics with Zelda, because like from what we've seen with what you can do with Zelda, it seems like it's I don't want to say limiting, but it's definitely different. Like the experience of playing as Zelda is going to be very different than the experience of playing as Link. Like Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, you could do both at the same time with the same character. And because the way that it seems like they're setting her up, I don't think that's the case. So, but I also don't think they want to just completely abandon that old methodology of how these games are structured. So like I think there's a good chance there's some back and forth there.
What do you think, Justin?
I think I want it to be this scenario where you just play as him a little bit in the intro and then you largely don't mess with our little green tunic boy again for the rest of the game. I want to play as Zelda in this game. I don't want to spend a significant amount of time controlling Link. I've done that. I've done that plenty. I will happily do that again in the future in a standalone game. But this is Zelda's time to shine, and I want to have as much of that as possible. And I do think that spending, half the game as Link would undermine that. And so I hope that's not the route that we're going. Mm-hmm. If at worst it's like Spirit Tracks reversed, sure, I can live with that. That would be fine. But I want this to be a Zelda game, not a Link rescuing Zelda game, not a Link and Zelda buddy cop comedy. I want this to be a Zelda game.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think it would really undermine it if after 20 Zelda games where you play as Link and really the only meaningful time you ever play as Zelda is what you just mentioned, Spirit Tracks, where you control the dark nut that her spirit is inhabiting, and that's it. It'd be really disappointing to have a Zelda game where then she has to share the stage with Link, who we've seen so much of. And to Chris's point, I don't know if I agree that they don't want to abandon what 2D Zelda has been completely. I feel like Aonuma very much wants to abandon pretty much everything Zelda has ever been. That's like what they've been doing. Yeah, and he's about breaking the conventions, and this is their new way. They're trying for that. I hope it's just the intro. I don't really know how age rating works. I don't know if they just watched the game that's sent to them and maybe they saw this original trailer. I don't know. I don't know how they work.
My understanding is that it's combination of both, that they have to write up a one sheet about it and then they provide some supporting clips. But also, the thing that gives me hope is that in this description, it says, as Link players use a sword and arrows, and it doesn't list anything else. It doesn't list a boomerang, a bunch of other gadgets or anything like that. It's a very limited arsenal, which hopefully means a limited time in that role.
Yeah, we already saw him use a sword and fire arrows just in the 4 minutes of the game that we've seen so far. So I hope that that's it. Honestly, that being said, I don't even know if I needed that. I don't even know if I need to play as him in the intro. It's just show it to me in a cutscene. And then let me just take control of Zelda at the start. I don't need to play as Link in this game. And yeah, I hope it's not a split Dark World, Light World thing. In the trailer, we see Zelda in this rifty Dark World in some points of the trailer, so it shows that she goes there to do some puzzly traversal things. Yeah. So hopefully that means it's not like, oh, Zelda's in the Light World, Link's in the Dark World, because yeah, I think that would be a bummer. Also, I totally know how this game's gonna end. I don't know if I should even say it, because it could spoil it for some people. But I totally know what's going to happen at the end of this game. You guys want to hear it or no?
Sure, I'd love to hear your theory.
Sure.
Okay, so if you don't want to hear what I am like 80% confident how Nintendo's going to end this game, then maybe skip ahead about a minute, because I'm going to go into it now. Absolutely, Link is going to be a boss in this game, and you're going to defeat him, and you're going to get his Echo, and then in the final boss, you're going to use his Echo to take down Ganon. Or whoever the final boss is. And
I think that sounds rad.
A Link Zelda team up, like flipped on its head, because just on the box art they show Link looking all evil next to Ganon, and then that's just how Nintendo ends its games. Like it uses its big mechanic from that whole game and flips it on its head at the very end in some cool way, and that's just what's going to happen. I really, really think so. So that's it. Potential spoiler theory over. But I think that's what it's going to be.
I hope so. That sounds Awesome. I also just want to point out, reading the description, talking about Zelda mentions, some enemies can be defeated by being set on fire. Other creatures dissolve into mist. All right, Zelda, I see you. Take it easy.
Yeah, okay. That's Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. That's the age rating. Maybe we're trying to squeeze too much out of just the E10 and up age rating for this video game. But that's it. That's our show. That's another episode of Toadstool Boardroom in the books. We're a weekly Nintendo show here on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, video version on YouTube, audio, anywhere else you like to listen to your show. You can send the show to toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com and find us on Twitter at ToadstoolBR. Justin, where can people find you and what do you want to plug?
You can find me on Twitter at KOREIS. Otherwise, check out Digital Trends, which is where all of my pieces from TennoCon are going to be up. I've got my Warframe 1999 preview all the way already up. By the time you listen to it, my interview with Ben Starr should be up as well. And I've got one more piece about Soulframe that should be up hopefully by the end of the week, ?
Awesome.
Did they give an update on that?
On which?
On Soulframe?
We did like a 20-minute segment about it. Where were you, Chris?
Okay.
No, I'm joking. Yeah, so there was a lot less Soulframe there, but yeah, they did. We got to see a lot of new interesting stuff. They showed
cool.
There is a preview build that certain people can get into, and they did let all of the attendees get access to it. And so they continue to open up access to Soulframe, and it's been in a very, very early, almost alpha state that people have been playing. They're adding the next big chunk to it to expand it, and they showed things like the spirits that you gather that act basically as your vendors and also give you powers and abilities and things like that. They also showed what, I kid you not, is the most touching and moving character creator I have ever seen.
Interesting.
So
I will have to look at all of this. I'm very, very intrigued by that game, but I'm a huge Miyazaki fan. Yeah. So
cool.
Very cool.
Chris, where can people find you?
You can find me at Strives93. I will throw a reminder out there from our intro to last week's episode. Next week is episode 100. If you would like to send a voice memo over to us, we've gotten a few. You can do that over at sayhi.chat/toadstoolbr. That will be in the description. Little 60-second voice memo if you want to throw that in there. Maybe it'll be featured, maybe it won't. You can do a favorite memory, things you like about the show, things you hate about the show. Ask Logan why he hates Nintendo games. All that good stuff.
Okay. Name one game I hate besides Endless Ocean.
Excite Bike.
Excite Bike.
Okay. Wow, that was so in sync. That was impressive. That was really, really impressive. You can find me on Twitter at LoganJPlant. So I weirdly have had my 2 most popular tweets of my entire time on Twitter within the last week. I don't know if you guys saw this.
I was just going to bring this up. I just saw it.
Which one did you see?
The Metroid one.
Yeah, so I was playing Metroid Prime the other day, and I saw that it's still on version 1.0.0, which I just think is awesome, so I tweeted that, and it has almost 2,000 likes at this point, and I don't know why that resonated with people. I expected nobody to like it, but it really went off. And then the other one was funny, because Justin and I talked a little bit about this one. People were passing around this image of what do you think of Nintendo's 2024 lineup? And it was missing Endless Ocean, and that made me angry because no, you can't just hide the warts. You have to show
the worst
all
one.
If you're truly asking to grade something. So I made my own image out of spite and posted it, and I've already seen 4 accounts with way more followers than me steal that image that I made. I'm like, hey, my job is done because I've gotten this image out here. People copied and pasted it into their own posts, and now Endless Ocean is included in all of these discussions about Nintendo's 2024. So that's what I'm up to over there. And then find the show at ToadstoolBR. We're really excited for episode 100 next week. Also, if you don't want to submit a voice memo, you can also just email us for the show for episode 100, toadstoolboardroom@gmail.com. We've got fun stuff planned. We're going to be talking about who is on the Mount Rushmore of Nintendo. And we're talking about creators, not characters. So I think it's going to be a really fun discussion, and we'll have a ton of other cool stuff in store as well. So be sure to come back for that as well. But for now, that's all the time I've got. I got to get back to playing Animal Crossing New Leaf on my Nintendo 3DS. Thanks so much for listening. Have a great week. We'll catch you next time right here in the Toadstool Boardroom.